There.
And now to some of those arguments. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris taking questions on their plans for the economy. Kamala Harris took questions from listeners during her audio town hall with Charlemagne the God, while Trump clashed with Bloomberg's editor-in-chief over Trump's promise of tariffs during an economic forum in Chicago. Take a listen.
Why are we sending money to other countries when we desperately need it in our own country for homeless, housing, resources, for whatever? That is my determining factor if I vote for Kamala or not.
So what do you say to that?
We can do it all, and we do. So first of all, I maintain very strongly America should never pull ourselves away from our responsibility as a world leader. And that is in the best interest of our national security and each one of us as Americans and our standing in the world. That being said, we also have an obligation to American citizens, obviously, and people who are here to meet their everyday needs and challenges, which is why, for example, we have done the work in the last 4 years of bringing down the cost of prescription medication.
You have America at the moment has $3 trillion worth of imports. You're going to add tariffs to every single one of them. That is going to push up the cost for all those people who want to buy foreign goods.
No. What's going to happen?
That is just simple mathematics, President Trump.
It's not. Yeah, it is, but not the way you figure it. I was always very good at mathematics.
Yes.
Let me tell you, you're saying $3 trillion.
That's
Those companies,
$3 trillion worth of imports.
And they don't have to pay. And if, by the higher the tariff, the more likely it is to have them come into the country.
The higher the tariff, the more you're going to put on the value of that piece, those goods, the higher people are going to have to pay in shops.
Ready? The higher the tariff, the more likely it is that the company will come into the United States and build a factory in the United States so it doesn't have to pay the tariff.
Some of the arguments. Joining me now to discuss, former DNC Vice Chair and New York Assemblyman Michael Blake and conservative radio host Shelley Wynter. Thank you both for being here. The economy is the number one issue, poll after poll after poll. It's great to have you here. First to you, Michael, what did you make of what you heard from both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump on some of the economic questions asked there?
You have someone who's actually ready to be president and someone who doesn't know how to count. So you have in Vice President Harris laying out a very clear proposal that would help businesses, help people, help with cost of living. In particular, you look at going from $5,000 to $50,000. That's a game changer for small business. Versus Donald Trump, who in his continual record of being bankrupt and not knowing what to do, is actually trying to tell Americans that tariffs would not lead to higher costs. The fundamental concern that people have right now is cost of living. He is saying it out of his mouth. Believe him in what he is saying. He has no plan. He has no vision, and you're just listening and watching in display.
Shelley, what did you make of the comments there, particularly because I know your listeners listen to you from the conservative mindset. What did you make of that?
Well, my listeners on 95.5 WSB radio in Atlanta understood what he meant because they can do math, unlike my Democrat friends. The point is, tariffs are used as a tool. And the tool, as he said, the tool is to bring American manufacturing back to America. So that's what the tariff is used for. The tariff is almost used as a threat. Is if you continue to manufacture overseas, which costs us jobs, then we're going to place a tariff on your products and our services. So we want you to bring that manufacturing home. What you did do, I don't know if it's done on purpose or it's done for time, but what's interesting is you cut off the crowd's response. That was a room full of business people. That wasn't just a town hall of regular citizens. And they clapped at Donald Trump's answer because as business people, they understood what the point was that was being made. But now let's go over to Vice President Harris's non-answer to a very specific question. No, you cannot do everything. You cannot take care of American citizens who are living under bridges, veterans who are living under bridges, families who are homeless. You cannot take care of them and continue to send hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine, to Israel. We're getting ready to put boots on the ground in Israel, 100 boots on the ground in Israel, to Taiwan and all these places around the world, and take care of American citizens and give reparations and give $50,000 to every business that wants it. And now you went from a $25,000 housing credit tax credit. To last night, she told Charlemagne to God it's going to be $25,000 down payment assistance. So right there, I've got to ask, what is it? Am I getting 25 stacks for assistance, or am I getting a $25,000 tax credit? What is it? And it's par for the course for this campaign. Throw everything out, say what needs to be said, and hopefully it sticks. And apparently none of it is sticking.
And to be fair, during that economic forum, the same thing was said of Donald Trump by the editor-in-chief of Bloomberg. I want to move on to what Donald Trump has said about an issue near and dear to both of your hearts, the issue of Black Americans and Latino voters. Kamala Harris has been doing interviews on Black media. Trump, though, is overperforming in polling with both groups compared to past Republicans. Here is what he said when he was campaigning in Pennsylvania.
Any African American or Hispanic, and you know how well I'm doing there, that votes for Kamala, you got to have your head examined, because they are really screwing you. They are really screwing you.
It is Kamala, for the record, but he is denigrating voters for making a choice that he does not like. Shelley, to you, what does he achieve with this?
Well, wait, first of all, how is he denigrating voters?
He's saying that they are being, for lack of a better word, screwed.
Taken advantage of. They're being taken advantage of. They're paying higher pricing. They're working class, the ones that he's talking about, working class, lower middle class. They're paying more for food, they're paying more for gas, and they're being taken advantage of.
But
and
Shelley,
over the course of 30 years, they voted.
He also said that they, that they had to have their head examined. That is not something that is a compliment.
Obama just told me the same thing. Obama just told me the same thing. I've got Black women telling me I'm not really he inferred them, he implied them, he certainly did. He even threatened us with, you're lucky Michelle's not here. I mean, come on, let's not make things up. Let's be honest here, and let's really be clear what's being said. If you're an African-American man, look, let me boil this election down in the African-American community to a very simple a reference to great Malcolm X. This race is between House African-Americans and field African-Americans. And the field African-Americans are going for Donald Trump. I'm talking about your men who build, your men who put things together, your men who work with their hands, your men who do things, not the men who push paper, or the men who are connected to power and want to continue to be connected to power.
Are you denigrating African American men who are professionals who work in white collar jobs? Is that what I'm hearing from you, or
no?
I'm just trying to understand, is Shelley the House one or the field one? I'm just trying to understand that part. I'm just trying to understand. We have someone who's spitting. I'm just trying to understand the one that's spitting talking points right now. Are you the House Negro or the field Negro that you're referring to? So I just want to make sure. Your question was about denigrating Black people. That literally was your question. You have a Republican fool who is talking right now about. You literally just said that Black men. You actually just said this is an election about House or field. This is the nonsense that we are listening to right now by those that are supporting Donald Trump. That is actually what you just there's only clearly you must be in your own talk. I'm not sure what kind of radio show you have that you can't listen to your own thing. So you actually just said again, do you understand? You sound absurd and silly. And so let's actually talk about the substance of your question. The substance of the question was around denigrating. The substance of the question was denigrating Black and Latino communities.
Sir, the substance of what I said is very clear.
My name is Michael. My name is Michael. And we thank you that. So the point here, question that was raised around denigrating Black and Latino communities. And
all right, my brother, let me answer the question.
Are you going to
let me answer the question?
The concerning part.
Are you going to let me answer the question?
Shelley, you made the point saying that you made a point saying that you believe that.
The point I'm making, ma'am, Sarah, the point I'm making is this: the men who get up every day and make things happen with their hands, they build things. They're plumbers, they're electricians, they're working for Amazon. These men who are coaching 7 and under football, not because their son or daughter plays, but because they want to keep brothers off the streets and they're volunteering their time. These men are going for Trump. These men, and I used an analogy made famous by the great Malcolm X. So if you're saying that I'm denigrating anybody, then you must assume that he was denigrating somebody. So don't even throw that word out there again, my
Okay,
brother.
so Michael,
the
to
fact
you.
of the matter is
What is
that's
your
what you're seeing in
so
the
the
black
response-
community.
Shelley, we've
So I'm
heard
not
you. Thank
denigrating
you.
anybody.
Michael, to you.
We have heard the filibuster now.
Thank you.
So the point yesterday,
I answered your question.
when Vice President Harris was in Detroit with Charlemagne the God, and we're talking about Detroit versus everybody. So the reference that was just made, he's essentially communicating that the people in Detroit and Milwaukee and Philly that are doing work, manufacturing jobs, putting in for their communities, are going to vote for Donald Trump, a man who has no policy, no support, who called for the death penalty on black men and has repeatedly been against us. So let's be abundantly clear. You have a choice. You can follow the rhetoric of someone who is literally calling you a house or field black man, or you can follow the black woman who was a DA, an AG, a United States Senator, a Vice President, an HBCU alum, a sorority sister who is actually helping black people. This is the decision you have in 20 days. To
How?
follow people like Shelley,
How is she
who
help
is
black
saying
people?
this rhetoric. We've heard his
How is she
filibuster.
help black people?
We could
Sir,
listen
how
to
she is
Shelley
how is
or
she
to
help black
Clarence
people?
Thomas.
Mr. Winter, you've
I'm
had your
sorry.
point. I'm just
Yeah,
trying
my
to let both
apologies.
of you.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate
Explain.
that. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So, like, the reality is this. You have a scenario right now where you have on one side a black woman who is saying, how do we help our communities? To your earlier question, Sarah, around how can you do both? On one side, you have Vice President Harris, who is articulating how we can help domestically and abroad. Donald Trump sent COVID tests to help Putin. So while your black families, house or field,
And
referring to what Shelley is talking
that's
about,
misinformation, sir.
we're dying.
That's
We're
misinformation.
dying. We're
That's misinformation.
dying
That's
because of
misinformation.
Donald Trump's policies.
That's misinformation.
You know, it's
That's
amazing.
misinformation.
We will focus here.
We are going to leave this here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michael Blake, Shelley Winter, thank
But
you
I'm
both
saying,
for
why
joining
don't you
us
correct the
at this point.
misinformation?
Have
Thank
a
you
good day
for joining us.
for your radio
Thank you.
show.